Welcome, folks, to our Tuesday live stream. I warned you on Monday that our Tuesday person may have to stay at work and has one of those jobs that's inflexible when he has to stay at work. So hopefully we will get Sky Pirate on a different time. But John graciously agreed to hang out with us for about an hour and answer any questions that you bring up. And I decided to ask in advance for some questions just so we have some to get started with. If you are joining this live stream and you are usually on the Special Operations Equipment channel, unfortunately, John, you're in jail. Why are you in jail?
We don't know why. I haven't even, normally it says medical disinformation, but it didn't say that this time. We put a video up, podcast episode 35, and before we even made it available to the public, they pulled it down. They actually deleted the whole thing. It's on Rumble. If you go to my Rumble channel, which is also SOE Tactical Gear, it's up there, whether you're a member or not. Usually those videos are members only. But it's up there for the world to see, and we're getting a lot of followers on Rumble. We've been there for years. Everything we post to YouTube auto-populates to Rumble, so it's there. You guys can check it out and leave some comments as to why you think it. I mean, one of the 100 reasons that it could have been pulled.
Yeah, it's funny. Jack got a strike too. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yesterday he got nailed for saying that people were fired from their military jobs for not taking the stick.
Oh, what you mean the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's in ours
misinformation. Also. Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of all seem to get strikes right at the same time, and I would say that they're watching us all, and maybe somebody is, but more likely that algorithm just knows that we all interact and do live feeds together.
Yeah. So I might get a strike next just for having you talk to me today.
That'll be your first one, though.
No, it'll be my second.
Yeah, no. When we go to jail, you're going with us. So
that's what true friends do. They either get you out of jail or they go to jail with you.
Yes. Yep.
All right, guys. So in the live stream, if you're used to seeing this on the Special Operations Equipment channel, just let your friends know we're live. Link them here, and we can have a conversation. I did go out on social today and ask for some questions, and the first one comes from Mona. And Mona asks, what is the change you made coming up to this Self-Reliance Festival that you will think will make the biggest improvement? What do you got, John? Anything?
We haven't even done anything. It is literally like wild land here. I mowed a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and then it's just rain, and sun and everything. I mean, I have grass that's taller than I am right now. I'm gonna hit it with the mower and see if it'll mow. We might actually have to bush hog it down in order to be able to start grooming it a little with the mower. This year with the sheep, we've had sheep in places in tractors where there was no grass, and from them eating what they want to eat and then pooping in that area and then moving them, we have different grasses growing here. I've also got some weeds here that it's different types of grass. And I think we have guineas, and even the chickens have realized there are other places outside the fences. So they eat those seeds and then they poop around it all over. So I need to start. That's really it. We haven't really made any real changes. We're kind of in limbo right now with the road going through as to most of the work we did the last year and the year before was outside the fence line, and we're losing a lot of that property. So we're just kind of focused right now is on business and business within the building and business outside the building. Our podcast stuff has really exploded. Our YouTube channel has exploded. Our other social medias, really the focus has been on making money, which is when people ask all the time, they want to have the conversation of, oh my God, this thing's going to end the world, or this thing's going to end the world. And my question is always, well, if we truly believe the world is ending, would you be better off if you had more money leading up to that, right? Do we want to take the little bit of money that we have and spend it because we think it's going to make things better at the end of the world? Or would we be better off to take that little bit of money and turn it into more money via, having a business or something? There's two kinds of people in the world, and those are people who create a product or have a tangible product or a service that people seek you out and are willing to exchange money with you. And then there's the other kind of people There's actually a third person, also third kind. But the other kind are like bureaucrats, right? Like the DMV. Would you ever really go to the DMV and pay a tax on a vehicle you already own and have to go there if you didn't fear somebody knocking on your door with a gun in the middle of the night eventually? And I would seek out a dentist on a Saturday and pay him any amount of money he wants to make a toothache go away, whereas I would never go to the DMV. So what I want you to do is just take the money you have and start some kind of business or skill or service where people seek you out and beat your door down to hand you or trade you product. And that's kind of what we've been doing. We've just been doing the things, because I don't tell people what to do. I tell people what I would do. And we've been doing a lot of that this year.
Well, the other thing you do is you share what you're doing that works. Like I was having trouble wrapping my head around Instagram, and I'm like, John, I'll pay somebody. I just want to like learn quickly how to use it as a better tool. And you hooked me up with your dude, Austin, and he just brain dumped me for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was tangible next steps. He's like, this is what I see working. This is what I don't see working.
Yep. And that came from having access to some guys, some really, really big channels with millions of followers. And you got an hour. I got 15 minutes. Like, okay, face to face, 15 minutes. And out of 15 minutes, I got 100 things he gave me, and I only wrote 3 down.
Yeah.
And those screenshots went to Austin, and then he started playing with it. And the important thing is like, well, I feel, okay, but why do you feel that? I don't give a shit what you feel. Show me the numbers, right? On this post, we made, 10,000 in that day of interactions, but on this post, we made 5. But I think this post is actually better, right? Well, we posted too close together. It was the timing of the day. It's simple things. So it's just putting them in motion. And I think it's important too, is we show what doesn't work also. Like we'll definitely have that conversation, and you see it in the videos too, the things that didn't work.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's important. Like we were on Self-Reliance Festival's Instagram, everything nicely packaged with our logo. And Austin's like, you need some videos that are just you or just John or just somebody without any of that. Just sharing something. And so then I was like, well, okay, I'll start doing my morning video on the Self-Reliance Festival one, just so it's not all this person is speaking, that person is speaking. That's important information too, because the purpose of the channel is to talk about the festival. But why else would you come there? Like, you don't need to go there to watch a bunch of commercials. We never liked that in the 80s. We still don't like that.
Guys get on my lives all the time every night, and they're like, hey, what about this thing? And I go, well, I can tell you how awesome my stuff is all day long. Let's ask these 200 guys that are on here, what do they think about it, right? More valuable than the owner or the face behind the company telling you, more valuable than that are a bunch of clients saying that. And I think we definitely need that for Self-Reliance Festival also. We need to really be hitting those hashtags and be like, hey, everybody that tags me in this hashtag this week, we're going to pick one person and you get this free thing or whatever. So we bribe them a little. But some of those people, I mean, we've had thousands and thousands of people. There has to be some 15, 20-second videos or 30-second videos or some photos of people just having a good time, crowds of people watching, the people presenting. And I think that is huge to add also. Like that, there's a antique show in Nashville. And it's a big show. And if you look at their social media, every day they're putting up 10, 15 pictures of vendor booths. And I'm like, holy cow, I want to buy that. I want to buy that. I want to buy that. That was last year. So I think, just having, and it's just testing. It's just testing different things and see what the audience is after. But because we're not, the people who've been know how awesome the event is.
Yeah.
We're throwing that bait out there and trying to get those new people and be like, holy cow, this is awesome. I'm willing to drive. I'm willing to take, 3 days off work and drive, 1,000 miles to come to this thing.
Yeah. Porterhouse told me last night why he came to Self-Reliance Festival from California the first time. And it's because he heard my talk on underground networking and me saying, your digital people that you think you're friends with, you're not the kind of friends you need to be to have each other's back.
Yep.
And he said he decided to come out in person and meet other people and see what's going on. Well, now that guy He's doing great. He's speaking at a whole bunch of different events. He's a very, like, by his nature, he's sort of a servant warrior mentality. And I think because of that, he has completely exploded his own network. I was just on with him last night, so he's top of my mind right now. But he was just a guy who I showed up and he was already there. And he's like, how can I help?
He's just a good person.
Yeah. And he's smart and interesting and has insightful things to share. And I think a lot of people are that way and don't think of themselves that way because when they're around other people, like normies, I'm going to use the word normies here. When they're around normies, they say stuff and people look at them confused, like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, it's not you, it's them. Like, this is the time, it's not you, it's them. They don't get it because they're not sharp enough. They can't think outside what they've defined for themselves. And you're talking over here and they're in this little box that they put themselves in.
Yeah, I mean, people, and they're not on that mindset course too. Like, people will type things out on my lives at night, and I'm just like, reword that because I'm not sure what we're talking about here. And when they reword it, I'm like, oh, duh. Yeah, no, that's exactly, you had it right. I just read it wrong.
Yeah. Well, because of course we'll read into things too. Okay. So the second question I got was, what are your reactions to the song Rich Men North of Richmond?
I think it's, I hadn't heard it until 2 or 3 days ago. Several people sent it to me. I listened to it and immediately sent it to 20 more people. I think I sent it to you as well, Nicole.
Yeah, a lot of people have.
I don't see how anybody can have a problem with that song or even the Small Town song, right? What's he saying that we don't agree with? Like, if somebody has issue with that song, what are they taking issue with? They're taking issue because that is their identity, perhaps. I wish that our government cared about miners, as in the ground and tunnels, as much as they care about minors on an island, right? The kids that they're diddling. Can we agree with that, or is there any reason to disagree, right? He has issue with people in Washington, D.C. I think we can all agree with that, no matter which one it is. So I just think I think that song has gone so incredibly viral because the normal people who are busy working, right? When you see people protesting, let's just call it the left and the right. I don't think either one of us are left or right, probably. We're just, let's do what's good for us, and then the people that believe in that will show up. But whether it's left or right, you don't see masses of people out protesting on the right because typically those are business owners and they have jobs, right? They have families. Most school teachers, not all school teachers, I have some great school teachers in my life and my history that I still talk about to this day, but most school teachers don't have children. They have your children, right? They're crazy liberal. They come up through the system and they're indoctrinated to become school teachers, and then they pass those crazy things on to your children. And those children, a lot of them don't become up, at least not until later years in their life, to be successful, but they're good at showing up to protests and holding signs and such, right? Those people typically don't have jobs. And that's why. But the normal people that make the world go around, that work and earn an income, and then that money is stolen from them to give to those crazy sides so that they can go out and protest while they don't have jobs. We're busy working. That song represents us, and I think what most of, let's say, the silent majority, what can we take issue with? As a matter of fact, that song probably represents most people listening to this right now. And maybe I'm not calibrated correctly. Maybe I missed something in that song, but I've heard it a couple times, and I don't see anything wrong. And I think that song is the #1 right now on iTunes, even though nobody has heard about this dude, because that's how most Americans feel. Most people listening to this feed right now. And when I say Americans, it's not just people within our borders. We have probably, I don't know about as many, but we definitely have people in Canada that are more freedom-minded than many people that I know in the United States, right? Because they taste that other side. You and I, Nicole, have people, dear friends of ours, coming to our event across the Canadian border that get stopped and turned around. Meanwhile, you have people that are just being flooded from this other side to come in and illegally enter the United States, they're given a cell phone, and now you have California and a couple other states that are actually letting these illegal aliens become law enforcement. Right? We clearly, I think, can agree that we have a problem. I don't know if you're aware or not. They just indicted Trump and 14 of his lawyers on 90 counts of RICO, which is organized crime, basically. And that's a problem. They're going after lawyers, right? The next step is they're going to go after big social media influencers. You and well, maybe not you. I mean, you're not saying as crazy as shit. And I don't even think it's crazy, but we're getting our channels pulled down for saying things that are truthful. We're only a year, 2 years removed from those guys.
Yeah, it's funny because you got a strike the same week Jack did. And we were talking about that before we headed on. And I was like, well, so now I'm at risk of a strike probably for talking to you. And I don't care. I don't care. It'll be my second time where I've done that. And I am not going to make decisions about what I say based on what some social media channel thinks. And I also am not super dependent on YouTube revenue. So I don't make that much here.
Somebody else, I can't remember who it was, a really big channel. Oh, Wrangler Star got a strike. And somebody said, hey, do you think you got a strike because of Cody got a strike? And I said, I don't think so. But there is, I'm sure, some algorithm that is looking at all that. A lot of people don't realize, like, Cody just got a strike on. No, he did not get a strike on his channel. Rolling Stone wrote an article on Cody, basically saying he was teaching people how to make bombs and stuff. And you can watch his stuff and determine what you think. That's complete horseshit. But we're only one step removed, right? When are they going to start going after people that shared content like that? When are they going to start going after people that believed and said those same things along those lines? Whether you're for Trump or against Trump, that's a big fucking problem. Like that's a major problem.
And, okay, so let's pair this with, we're getting to the point where I can be made to say whatever anybody wants me to say, and I look like me and I sound like me, and it is not Nicole Sauce.
Sure.
The AI's already there. I don't think we have the tools. We, the plebs, have the tools to do that, but it's there. Yep. It ain't that hard to make us say stuff like that. And then at that point, you're like, well, did they really say this thing that got them in big trouble or not?
There was an app. There was an app out 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. I could message somebody from your phone with your phone number, Nicole, and they would think that you messaged them. And I could say whatever to them. I could completely set up a date with some dude, and he'd show up to meet you and then be like, why'd you stand me up? And he would never know that that wasn't you messaging him.
Right. Yeah. That's not freaky at all.
And that was a decade. That was a decade ago. Just imagine what's doable now.
Yeah. It's like you have to have a code word with all your friends so they know it's really you.
Which really you should have a challenge phrase, right? So if you're ever communicating across radio, are you doing that under duress or under captivity, right? There should be a challenge phrase. That's something that people have never had to think about. But I mean, you probably should be thinking about that now.
I agree. Well, when I was tagged in on all of these, I didn't realize this song was controversial. Like I told you, I listened to the first verse. I was like, dude has a great voice, interesting lyricism in his first verse. I like the song. I'll listen to the rest of it later. Didn't until today. Listen to it all the way through, and now I'm hearing there's controversy because what is it, racist? Like, what is it, classist?
So, I haven't heard anything about controversy. I keep hearing people saying that there's some controversy, but I haven't got to see what the controversy is. When the Jason Aldean song came out, I kept seeing it on social media, and I never clicked on it until somebody said, hey, check this out. They're making a big deal. And that's when I watched it and started speaking about it myself. It had already been around several weeks, and apparently it had been out over 6 months. But I don't know. What I did like is I saw an interview. I think Tim Pool, was speaking about him this morning. And he said, look, he's going to be playing at this farmer's market. I think they said North Carolina. And he said, look, I go on at 2:00 and I will stay there till 2 a.m. at this venue and shake every person's hand that wants to have a conversation. I want to meet you all. And I thought that's awesome, right? And that's what most artists do starting out. As they get bigger, that kind of fizzles out. And when they have security, that definitely fizzles out. But I love it. I love that he wants to have those conversations. Somebody said that they're taking issue, and I did hear that. They're taking issue with my taxes shouldn't go to buy your fudge rounds. And they're saying, fat shaming or whatever. Well, I mean, if you're 300 pounds overweight, those are some health issues. You probably should address that. If you don't want to, that's fine. You're also probably not going to run into that person at one of those venues. And typically when we do see big people at any of our events, what's the first thing they do? They walk up and they're like, hey, I've lost 50 pounds. Hey, I finally started keto. Hey, I watched you do 75 hard and I thought I could never do it, but I'm trying it, right? Look at Witherspoon, right? Witherspoon just sent me a photo in a pair of pants that you could put two of him in right now. And I'm like, John, you look like a hobo. And he goes, well, I'm just I'm just still losing weight. I go, John, I don't care. You look like a hobo. I know your financial situation. Go buy a pair of pants. Go represent yourself. You don't need to keep he was literally tying like a piece of rope around his waist. I go, this ain't Huck Finn.
Yeah, I ran into him at your place like 2 weeks ago, and he's a smaller man. He is a smaller man.
And every day, I'm like, why is this crazy person messaging me? Like, we've become friends.
Yeah.
But every day he would send me like a progress report. Dean, same thing. Dean sends me a thing every day, and he's like, hey, I'm holding myself accountable. There's 5 of you guys that I send this artwork to. And he's amazing. He's like Da Vinci mixed with Salvador Dali. And I'm honored to be one of the 5 people in that list that I get those progress reports and that artwork from him.
Yeah, he does. He does some pretty cool stuff. .com Cowgirl says, Rolling Stone, right-wing influencers just found their favorite new country song.
Yes. And
I guess the problem is it's country style.
And well, I mean, if you like it, Tom McDonald, there's a dude named Burden who I speak to on social media. He's got a song kind of like Jason Aldean's thing, but it's more like rap. Adam Calhoun, he does a thing called Man on the Street, where he, as a white, like redneck as you can get, blue collar worker, been to prison kind of thing, walks into the hoods, where in all the black neighborhoods, and he's like, hey, can I talk to you? What's the problem between whites and blacks? And mostly, like, these dudes are like, we don't have no problem. What problem? Where is the problem? And he's been doing these videos for a decade probably. Yeah. I mean, just do what you want to do. If you like it, like it. Why do we like it? What are the words? And whatever. I should ask
him to come to SRF. Actually, he's got a booking email on here.
That'd be awesome. I would love to
ask him. I'm going to ask him. See, because we've got Slave to Servant, we've got Tess, we've got room for one more.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It'd be really cool.
Even if he doesn't even sing, just see if he wants to come out. There he is, John Witherspoon. What's up, buddy?
Yeah. It's like we said his name 3 times, and the man who's half his original size is back. There's Dean too.
That's a different Dean.
Oh, different Dean. It is. Yep.
When I heard about the Rolling Stone article, my reply was, I can't wait for them to write an article about me, right? New York Times did an article on me, and it was good for business. I can constantly send that to people, even though most people took it as controversy and it was talking ill of me. I felt that the article was truthful, and he closed the last line. It really was in my favor, I believe. I would love for the New York Times or Rolling Stone to write another piece on me. I'm able to monetize that in a big manner. It might push some people away, but those are typically going to be the problematic people anyways. It's going to solidify the people that exist, and the people that, because we're so easy to find, you can listen to 1, 2, 3 pieces of my content over time and know exactly what I believe, and like attracts like. It's going to bring them out. I don't have to pay or try to buy those customers. They come and find us then from that publicity.
Yeah, which is great. Okay, we got a question here. I'm in the process of starting up a jack of all trades farmhand side gig to turn into an exit job plan. Would drastically changing operating hours, evenings, weekends today, be an issue? So I think he's saying, if I start it doing evenings and weekends and then go full time and change it to daytime hours only, do you think that'll mess up my business?
It's going to change your clientele, right? Because when do I need you here, right? If I'm hiring you, and are you doing like farm sitting, or, hey, oh my God, it's raining and my gutters are full and now the water's coming in my building? Well, obviously you got to come when it's raining. And are you willing to be the guy out there in the thunder and lightning? you just got to go when the client needs the work. Typically, when I call somebody, I'll send a message to my primary guy, and if I don't hear back in 10 minutes, I've sent messages to 2 more guys because I need it done right then. And what I'm determining is, man, is it worth me to pay somebody to do this, or do I need it done so quickly that I will just go do it? And that's what it comes down to. I'm not real clear what your business is, but I mean, I know there is a business for somebody who knows how to take care of animals to come out and simply feed animals.
Yeah. In fact, if you are a farm sitter and not coming to Self-Reliance Festival, I need to hear from you.
She needs a farm sitter.
I do. And this is a standard problem in our network, right? We get all these things going on our homesteads, and then we want to go somewhere. And there is a full-time job traveling from homestead to homestead, I think, to be had.
Well, we know people that kind of do that, don't we? I mean, doesn't the Lots Project kind of does that?
I don't know if they take care of farm animals, but I should ask. But they're coming to Self-Reliance Festival, so I'm SOL on that one. But yeah, and the other thing is traveling to do odd jobs, because even when you have like a full family working on a homestead, occasionally you just have something where you need more hands. And you're willing to pay for more hands. It's harder when you're running a homestead by yourself.
Sure. Yeah, but absolutely.
Go ahead.
Amanda and I leave on the weekends, and we run one direction. And typically we're going to be back, right? We're going to be back here because of the animals. Like we went to Memphis on Saturday, shot up there, ran around all day, got back here. And then Sunday morning took care of the animals. And then we ran another direction. But that's the anchor, that we have to be back here. We can't leave for more than, most of the day, one day. I see strong roots on here. Hey, I need to talk to you about coming out and planting some fruit trees. I've got a bunch of fruit trees I put in that seemed like they were doing okay, and then they just let go. They died. They're big box store fruit trees. I was at, and I know you're cringing right now, I was at Home Depot this weekend, or Lowe's. They have some other brand. They have apple and peach trees in there that they're getting $170 for in a container. They're a little bigger. They look very, very healthy, but I need to buy some trees and just pay you to come and properly plant these trees. And I know you're supposed to soak them and get the root out, and I never do any of that shit.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
I have a ton of trees here that are living that I didn't do that with, but I'm to the point where I just, whatever your price is, and I trust you, whatever your cost is to come here and just plant these trees, and we'll build like 12 videos while you're here doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be reaching out to you shortly. When we did my food forest install in October, I used big box trees mostly that a bunch of people helped me source. And we had extensive root trimming to do before we could even put them in the ground. And all except for one is happy, right? Well, except for the apple trees never like being at my house because of cedar apple rust. But basically all the trees but one are still here, still alive and thriving. So we didn't get the what happens is the roots like choke themselves out. We didn't get that happening. So
we hit Lowe's and Home Depot most weekends, and there has been a month or two there where they have no trees. And then this week, all of a sudden, they have a ton of trees. They they got some fig trees that are literally almost as tall as I am, and the prices are $35. They were $30 last year. So I want to put a bunch more figs in because that's a crop that just does amazingly well here. But as far as your cedar rust, I was under the impression, Nicole, that I was just going to cut down all the cedar trees on the property. I was at peace with that. Okay, we're going to chop these down. That's going to take care of it. And Billy Bond said, nope, if you got them a mile away even. So the people at the co-op are always like, oh, here's this liquid. You just spray it, and that takes care of the cedar rust. That's the only way you're going to have apple trees, is to do that, use that chemical if you have cedar trees. And we do. I can cut them. I got 36 little ones on the property that we've counted. But the neighbor has them, and the guy across the street, they just self-plant.
Yeah, and I put in varieties that are supposed to be rust resistant of pears and apples because I get it on the pear trees too. And nope. So probably what's going to happen is I'm going to put in different kinds of trees there over time. We'll see. Yep. I'm going to give them one more year. And because I am not spraying chemicals on them to keep, I don't care. I don't even like apples that much.
So this is the first year. We're at year 5 and 6 and 7 right now of apple trees and pear trees in the ground. This is the first year where I could go out and count numerous apples coming in the driveway. We had hundreds of apples. Our pear tree just had hundreds of pears in it. And we come driving up a couple of weeks ago on a weekend, gates open, and there's a squirrel in there. And I look up, and all those pears, if there's one squirrel, there's more squirrels, and they have eaten all of those pears off of that pear tree.
That's shocking.
And they're on the outside of the fence line, inside the compound fence, but outside. So the only solution to that is when we're gone, turn dogs out in there, which there's usually not dogs in that free area. But those trees that are right there, so the trees we've planted this last year inside the fence line, no squirrel problem. They're also not old enough to produce anything, but the dogs can get there.
Yeah. I had something yesterday for the first time in years. I heard my dog's losing her mind inside. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take you out and show you there's not an issue. Well, there was an issue. There's a noise coming from down where the chickens are. There's a chicken going, rah, rah. I'm like, well, that's a really grumpy chicken. I'm going to walk down there, hawk on it.
Yep.
I never have predator pressure from the top because I've trained the dogs to bark, but they've been really interested in not going out in the heat of the day for the last 4 weeks or so here. And man, I turned the dog. Now the dogs have to be outside because that's the only way I know to not have a hawk get my birds.
Yeah, we just have to pull, sheds with them. Just build some of those lean-to sheds.
Yeah.
Some 4x6s that are, docked on the corner so you can pull it with a 4-wheeler. You have to have shade, just like the sheep. I mean, we have those sheep in the tractor. When there's an enormous storm coming, I always turn them out of the tractor so they can get somewhere. And those things, they don't ever get anywhere. They're standing out there right in the rain. They don't seem to even care. But we do turn them out of there. So that's cool. I see somebody said something about Risky Krisky. He's a friend of mine. I've not met him in real life yet. He is coming down, I think, to Self-Reliance Festival. We're going to get him on a couple podcasts. He's got a great YouTube channel if he's not on your radar. He and I have some close mutual friends in this area right here that live here. Cool channel. Check him out for sure.
Cool. Arkansas black apples don't seem to be too bad for rust. That'd be good to know. Again, I don't love apples. I don't hate them. I like them fresh in season, but I love peaches way more.
I would like to have, so apples store better, right? Peaches don't store well. The peaches do okay here when they do okay. But I eat an apple a day. I want the biggest apple I can get. I like the Fuji apples. But recently there's a bunch of stuff, and it probably just wasn't on my radar. But by the time you're putting an apple in your mouth from the grocery store, that thing's been off the tree for between 1 and 2 years, they say. So when you get an apple that's good from Walmart, I mean, just imagine how good a real apple is that hasn't been off the tree all that time. And I don't know, maybe the sugars come out like in pears and it needs a chill hour and to get the sugars out and soften up. But I would assume that growing your own apples are probably better than some of the grocery store apples, for you at least.
Yep, cool. So the odd job guy said plumbing, carpenter, haying, to topographical maps and chores, whatever needs doing, not farm sitting and too far. Nobody ever wants to farm sit. My farm sitters last year are coming to SRF. I was like, dang it. Now I got to get somebody else out here to check on the sheep.
So
that's okay.
Do what you have to do to get the business started. And as you build your clientele list, you're able to change. Once your clients know how good you are, then the price is able to go up and the hour constriction. You're going to lose some customers when that happens. But you just do what you have to do. But when you're starting out and you need that initial seed money and that capital, the answer is yes. I mean, if you look at my buddy Evan, Radio Made Easy, he was just in Idaho. He stopped here last weekend on the way to Idaho, and now he's on the way back and he's doing another class. He said, I'm taking everything I can get right now. The answer is yes. And for all you guys that like family and I got to raise my kids, he has 3 little kids with him right now and his wife with a pull-behind trailer that our buddy Tad just put a mini split on. So nice. People always like, how to balance. That's some bullshit that you've been programmed with. You just do what you have to do.
Oh, come on, John. My work-life balance is perfect.
Yeah, we don't like. I'll have balance when I die. Um, and as far as raising your kids, my kids were with me all the time. Amanda and I had our kids are all adults now. All of our kids, we didn't have a babysitter like ever. We never like. I don't trust people with my dog, much less my kid. My kids were with us when they weren't at school.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting comment from earlier. The sky is always falling. Building community and resilience shouldn't be counting on the world ending. So it has been easier, I think, to sell Self-Reliance Festival tickets in the last 3 years because shit's getting weird. But that it should not be predicated on that, because the skills you build at something like that, and the skills we build when we develop trusting relationships that are real, and all of the things that we're doing, and just build the life that we want to live, that should happen all the time, not just because it's scary outside. Because I'm not sure, I don't actually think the world is worse than it was. I think more people see it, and I think some bad shit's been going on all along.
Are you froze?
I don't know. Am I frozen?
Okay. So I'm 52. I'm 52. Every year, there was something that was supposed to wipe us out, right? Y2K, Mayan calendar, Ring of Fire, Jeffrey Hoagland on Art Bell, right? None of that has wiped us out. So had you operated out of fear, which I don't think I was scared. I was having fun, right? It was an excuse to go get new things, all of which I don't give a shit about. I couldn't even show you. I still have them all. All the shit that I've bought, I have buildings full of shit. It's so important to me that they're not here and they're in another building that I don't visit. Had I put that money back into growing money, and it does, and I say that, and I know people are like, oh, everything's money. Had you put that money into your business and more tools or more craftsmanship or more education for your skills, you would have a lot more money. And it's not about the money. The money buys you freedom. The money gives you options, right? Do you want to go to this thing? What does it cost to have somebody come and watch my property that I trust, right? I could bring somebody I trust from another state, fly him here, give him the keys to my building because we have history, and then I can get on a private plane and go where I want. That's what money allows you to do. So that's what I mean when I say those things. But yeah, a lot of times when you get in these prepper groups, and I'm in them. I'm in all the prepper groups and the shit hit the fan groups on Facebook and stuff, and it's constantly like, all right, I have an extra $20 this weekend. What should I spend my $20 on? Your $20 isn't going to make a difference, right? Buy some lithium batteries. That's what you should buy, lithium batteries. Buy some rechargeable batteries.
Or choose, the rechargeable light bulbs in your lamps.
Yep.
Replace one of those per room, so if the power goes out, you still got light.
Yep.
Those are cheap.
Tiri, what's up? I think about you every day, you and your husband, because when I walk out, I still have those fig trees where they can't get water. So I actually have to be, when I walk out and I'm like, those leaves are a little curled, I better water these plants. And I think about you every time I walk out the building.
So the question is, what advice would you give a first-time vendor at SRF? Should I get set up for credit cards?
Yeah.
Is there too much variety of goods? Coming from Wisconsin and want to show up prepared. So I do want to say this. Evan Dixon from Radio Made Easy was going to sell internet to vendors. And he told me the other day he's not selling it to vendors. He's giving it to you for free because he wants you to be able to do credit card transactions so that you can sell more stuff, which is an amazing thing that he's doing. He's bringing out a Starlink, and he's going to give you access to internet, which has been a weak spot as a vendor. I would say have stuff that people want to buy and have it look pretty. That's about it. Like, I haven't noticed a sales problem for anybody at SRF. Like,
you don't even have to be a better salesman. People are going to buy stuff from you because you look crazy, right? You look cool. You look like you came out of fucking Burning Man. People are going to be attracted to that. Some people aren't. They're going to buy from the grandma because of the way you look or the way the grandma looks. Have a good product. Bring your product. Present your product. I make nylon gear. I got a dude coming here that makes nylon gear. He was like, hey, do you mind? Can I bring my stuff? I'm like, I don't give a shit. Bring your stuff. Like, he's a direct competitor of mine. Just bring your shit. Like, bring your stuff, set up your stuff, represent your product, make sure they remember you and not your product. I walk around some of these booths here and I don't know what they fucking sell. Like I walk around our show, looking to buy things, and I don't know what the booth sells. I have no idea, and they're also not in their booth. So just be present, be memorable, and have a solid product. Speak of the devil, there's Evan right there.
Yeah.
And you should bring every method, right? And we manually entry. You'll see we do manual entry on the iPad here, and we got to type in all your numbers. That's because I'm fucking stupid. Like you can get any one of these companies, PayPal, Stripe, Square, any of them.
QuickBooks
will give you a card reader. Get that damn card reader. Get your shit set up, and have redundancy. We have all of the iPads. I hate Apple. We have all of the iPads, and inevitably, the first one we pull out, wherever we go, it doesn't work. Have a second one. Have it set up on your phone. Do whatever. I am always baffled when I go to some, especially like art festivals or oddity shows or like street scene kind of shit, and I want to buy something, and they don't take a debit card. It's not that I don't want to give you cash. I've already spent my cash.
Yeah, most people spend cash at SRF, and then they're looking to swipe the card, or they're looking to pay with crypto. And if you don't know how to accept crypto, learn how to do that. Josh, the Renegade Butcher, and Brian from the Lots Project, who will both be there, are pretty good at helping you accept cryptocurrency payments. And it's something you can literally set up in 2 minutes on your phone. Done.
Yeah, here's guys. The only sales problem is not bringing enough product.
Yeah,
I have sold out of everything, every SRF. So we used to do gun shows in Del Mar, and we did a whole circuit. For guys that don't know, there's a gun show every weekend of the year, from Arizona, Las Vegas, California, and all through California and such. So we would go to a show, and what people at shows do, like when I went to a bunch of prepper shows, I didn't sit down for a single lecture. No, nothing. I went to see the vendors, and everybody makes the first walk around, and nobody buys anything the first time around. And they're determining, they only have a finite amount of money, what is more important to them, and they're maneuvering in their mind how they're going to spend that money. But we started selling T-shirts when we used to do shows. We would have a T-shirt. We had belts that were $35, and we had T-shirts that were $10, because our customers had saved all their money in a shoebox, hid it from the wife or whatever, and went and bought that one gun they're going to buy at the gun show. And then they come over and buy some stuff from me. And then they buy a knife. I want that last $10. That's why I had a $10 item. That $10 item nowadays is like $35. But we always had T-shirts, and we wouldn't ever sell our T-shirts till towards the end of the show. We would blow out all of our shirts, because that dude has hidden and scraped and saved his money, and by God, he's going to spend that last bit of money before he walks out of that building. And we were the ones that got that money because of those items.
You know, I heard from somebody who was a jewelry vendor who would set up a jewelry booth at gun shows because that was something for the wives.
Yep, there was always a Black Hills Gold guy at all of the big shows, always, tons of it.
Yeah. Okay. Letty says, what is one topic that has not been done at Self-Reliance Festival, John, that you would really like to see done at Self-Reliance Festival?
I don't know. What do you think?
It's a hard one for me. So we have scything coming in this time. And that was one that I was
super cool,
super interested in. I know that's a weird thing to be interested in, but I've talked to John about, his name's John too, who's doing it, but never seen it done. And I've tried scything and not felt terribly successful at it. So that's the kind of thing where he can do the demo, and then theoretically you can also try. But we got to have some tall grass to cut down.
Yeah, I think we've got that. Scything's like tennis, right? You can pick up any tennis racket and go play tennis until you're with somebody that knows how to play tennis. And then your racket, it has to be fit for you, and the tension on it and everything is to you. It's just like a set of golf clubs. But scything, you can go into any antique store and see size all over the place. What I'd like to know is what's the realistic in the real world of picking one of those up and using it, or conditioning it back into a usable item. And I don't know the answer to that, but that is definitely something I would be interested in seeing, is the scything thing.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of 2-person saws, and every time I buy an old axe or some blacksmithing stuff or a 2-person saw, I always say to Amanda, I'm like, man, I hope we never have to use this for real. And what's the reality? How many people have bought those saws and those saws are dead, right? Could you bring it back? Could you sharpen it? What's wrong with it? And most of us don't know the answer to that. We just amass things for in case we ever need to use them.
Yeah, I would love to see some airsoft training of some sort available in the background.
Totally doable.
Yeah, and we tried to do that once and it just didn't work out. So that has not, nobody's taken charge of doing that either. So
it's just fun. Especially in my industry, there was a time where guys would always, if you said something they didn't like, they're like, oh, you're just an airsofter. Man, we dealt with airsoft, like real kids that were airsofters. And a lot of those dudes, while people were shit talking them, we were more than happy to sell them product. And a lot of those kids, like I got a kid used to come in my shop. Literally his mom would drive him into my shop. That kid did like 8 deployments with Ranger Battalion and then went on to do some other pretty high speed stuff. And he was an airsofter. Like, it's fun to go and shoot it's like paintball, right? And everybody doing paintball, they wear up motocross gear now and they're sliding and they got all these inflatable bunkers. But just take 6 of your friends, meet in the middle of the woods and go this direction for 5 minutes and come back, right? It is fun to do that. It's a blast.
You know, I read a book recently where they played a game called Assassin, and you had to shoot somebody with a water gun, basically, or kill them with a water gun. You could make a water bomb out of a balloon. And the rules were you couldn't do it inside, and they had special places you couldn't do it within 10 feet of a building or something. But you were assigned somebody, and nobody knew who was assigned to which person until it was like the last 4 people, and then they had an elimination round in an area. That would actually be kind of fun to play at SRF, where people, 20 people sign up for it, and you never know when the assassination is going to happen. But
that would be that's totally cool. You guys, if you guys have airsoft or paintball stuff, there's 30 acres right next door that you have 100% access to. You can just go over there and do it. It's in the woods. You're going to get bugs all over you. Bring some, long pants and BDUs and spray
take a shower
and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I think so. I would love to see more stuff like that going on, because there's a whole sub conference happening in the background in the campground that I don't even know what happens there.
Yep.
But I know that it happens. So, John, have you always been the kind of person who goes your own way without caring what other people think?
I dropped out of school in the 10th grade. So yeah, I guess I just kind of went and did what I was going to do and just figured out how to make it happen. A lot of times I just did it and then was willing to pay the price for having done it. My school counselor called my mom in like the end of 9th grade, and he told her that she should just sign me out of school because I'm not going to go and finish school. He never said that I was going to be a failure, but he said, John's definitely not coming to school. You might as well just agree to sign him out. So yeah, I guess so. And I think my kids knew that, like not the first few years of their school. They didn't know that, but my kids all going to school didn't help my kids. My kids were already on the course of what they were going to do from the time they even started high school. Now, Cody took TCAP, which is like machining. It's a whole, we have a big program here in this town, as well as a lot of the small Tennessee towns where they have auto shop and they have construction trades and they have metalworking and such like that. Now, we sent Cody to an 18-month program to get his machinist stuff. He went and won all kinds of awards for TCAP for the contest and stuff. And he is actually doing that now. He ran a laser. He's run a couple machines at a couple big plants, but he just took a job working at a enormous plant here that makes all of the pre-aluminum. They take the ingots and press them out and run them into these big rolls. And that goes to another plant that makes aluminum foil. But he, as well as a couple of other people we know, are working at that plant, and they have all the work they want. And their minimum pay is $35 an hour. And some of these guys are making $55, $60 an hour, And these kids can work. They can put in 100 hours right now if they wanted to. There is no shortage, and they're giving them huge incentives to bring friends on. I got a buddy that's working over there in maintenance. We know 2 people work in maintenance, as a matter of fact. And then my kid is on a 6-person team that's actually running some of this big equipment. But that's what he's doing. He just came in here 2 weeks ago, and he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying this house," and it was $350,000 for a kid that's 22.
Yeah, not bad. It's amazing. My uncle owned a machine shop, and my cousins inherited it, and all of them have been able to build a good life that way.
Yeah, I would like to see him take that money, put up a building, and put some machines in there, and that's just a license to steal. I knew a guy named John Matthews. Some of you will know the company. It's named Surefire. It's high-end flashlights. Most dudes carrying a gun probably have a Surefire on their gun or in their pocket. And he retired. And his passion was he would ride these big dual sport motorcycles, and he just liked to do wheelies. That was his thing. And Costco wanted to carry the flashlight, and he said, they brought him back on as an advisor and such. Costco wanted to sell the flashlights, and he said, "No, I don't want to work that much." And the whole conversation, I was there for some of it. The conversation was, you've got 50 of these machines. All you have to do is run them a couple more hours through the night. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that." So what had happened was he wanted to have machine guns in California. So he set up Surefire Institute, which was Ken Good, Dave Maynard, Mike Sneed, some of those dudes we were doing a lot of stuff with. And that basically setting up that training cell gave him the ability to have belt-fed machine guns in California. So he came back into the company at that point. They never did run flashlights for Costco, even though Costco wanted all those. And nowadays, those machines are auto-loaded. They have these sleds that just load them. You really have a dude there in case that machine starts making terrible noise in the middle of the night. You can turn that thing off. But even now, most of that stuff's automated. So once you have it set up, you are literally just printing money. And there is a shortage of everything. We know guys right up the road building aerospace stuff. They're cutting knife stuff. They're doing stuff for all these factories that are going to Japan. If you have the capability to do that, it's like pawn shop, man. It's legal theft. Not really theft, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny how many things there are like that in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. People with it's like having money, right? People with real big money, their money makes money. I got a buddy that gets into his shop at about 3:00 every morning just because he's moving money around in overseas accounts. That's all he's doing is playing overseas stock market. And he makes you know him. I'll tell you who it is, Nicole. He makes a ton of money just moving money around.
That is great. That's actually something so my financial literacy in the stock market world is like, I understand terminology, but I've never gone into that world. And I became aware I needed to learn more about it long term, because that's going to be part of my investment strategy as I get older, is to have some stuff in the stock market. And even if I'm working with a money manager, I want to do it. So I've just now started diving into, I'm going to be fake investing $100,000 on a spreadsheet for the next year. Just
every guy sitting in prison does that all day long. Literally, that's what they do in prison. They're just moving money around on paper. They're just day trading.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to learn. Because I wouldn't want to start by putting $100,000 in of my own money and losing it all on accident. Okay, next one from Andrea. Go ahead. I think we're on a delay here. I'm sorry. Andrea wants to know, how do you store tromboncino squash? How do I harvest? When do I harvest? When it turns yellow? And what are ways that you use it in your food? Do you know anything about tromboncino squash?
No, I saw the enormous one Jack had. I think you have some. Yeah. Somebody was going to give me seeds. I never got seeds for it. I've never grown them. They look like cool birdhouses possibly to me, but I've never used them. I know Billy is big on that. They have them growing wild all over his place.
Yeah, the tromboncino squash, once you get them started, they will reseed themselves. If you have other squash, they will cross-pollinate with those, and then you'll end up with weird Franken squash. But when they're young, when they're like little and kind of green, you can harvest them and you eat them like zucchini. So you would cut it up and use it like you would in any zucchini recipe. If you let them get bigger, they will turn the color of a butternut squash. That's when they're ready to harvest. They will go from green to a golden color. And then you harvest them, put them somewhere where air can get around them, but it's dark and relatively cool for a week or so. And then they store like butternut squash. So they store best in a root cellar environment where it's cool and dark and the right humidity level. But I've kept them just at room temperature in a relatively cool room without it being a root cellar. And I've had them last all the way till April the next year, harvesting them in October. And then you cook them like any butternut squash. So you can roast them, you can make them into pie, you can saute cubes of them. The cool thing about a tromboncino is it's got a very long like leg, and then it has like a little teeny squash, and that little teeny squash has the seeds, which are a pain in the neck to cut around. So you just cut that off and feed it to your livestock, and then you use the long tube part, and it's just super easy to use. So I like it better than butternut because it's not all seedy inside. It's not a seedy squash.
And feeding that to your livestock, the livestock are going to move around and plant that stuff for you.
Yep. And B says, when the stem's dying off, the squash is ripe. Yeah, so forward observer Mike Shelby mentioned the importance of having a local machine shop in your situational plan.
People they're just calibrated, myself included, right? We have this hot knife. We have a bunch of these hot knives and they're spring loaded.
Yeah.
And the heat has fused these 6 screws into this block, and the block has a heat element in it. And we buy the new block with the heat element, and we just couldn't get these screws off of here. So I'm like, all right, I'll just buy another one of these. I've got 12 sitting here that don't work. They cost $750, and we get about 2 years out of them. And it seems like every couple of years I buy a couple, thus the 12 that don't work. Mm-hmm. And our guy was in here, and he's like, man, why are you guys messing with that? Why don't you just drill these screws out? I'm like, well, I don't know where to get the screws. He's like, I'll handle it. And Jake handled the majority of it. We just couldn't get this last screw out. So this old guy that comes in here and works on our sewing machines, he's like, get out of the way. And he drills these things out, goes and gets the screws. And I hear him grinding. I'm like, what is he doing? He's grinding the screws down, and he put, a nut on there so that after he's cut it off where he wants it, it just corrects the threads. And cool. I knew to do that. It was not in my head. I remember my grandfather doing that, but I've just never had to. I've always been just able to go and order the parts. Well, in the last couple of years, to include these, we went to order the parts, and they're like, we're not selling parts. You got to buy a whole new thing. They wouldn't sell the element. They wouldn't sell any of the shit. And then more and more, as people's inputs and the raw goods are getting harder to get, does he want to sell that heat element, or does he want to be able to build another $750 hot knife? And I understand it.
Yeah, I hate that. My roaster that caught on fire that I was able to rebuild has a roasting chamber that costs like $250, $350 and it's just like a little glass thing. Well, I dropped it and it did not survive the drop. It just broke into a million pieces. I have the old one from the fire that I pulled all apart and cleaned, put back together, and there was a gasket around the bottom that they will not sell me separately that is required for it to work. And we're talking a $10 item max, but they want me to buy this, $250, $300 roast chamber as a unit instead of fixing the one I have. So I just actually ordered something off of Amazon that's heat resistant to see if I can manufacture that, because if I can't fix this roast chamber, I'm selling that roaster. Because it's just not like, I use it a little bit when I have really small orders, but usually I'm doing more large orders, and I can do small orders on the bigger roaster. It's just easier on the smaller roaster.
A lot of times companies they don't make those parts, right? They come from somewhere like Grainger. Yeah. You and we just don't know what that part is, right? And a lot of times we had this switch that goes in one of these hot knives. It's just a normal switch. They use it in every single industry. You just have to find that thing. And when you find that thing, a lot of times you find also in searching, once you know what that thing is, you find where they're actually buying the entire machine from, and you realize that they're marketing it, they're doubling their money, right? And now
Right.
they know that. So when you find that out, you no longer need them.
Yeah, and that's so part of why I chose the manufacturer for my current roaster is it's all with parts from Grainger, and he told me the part numbers.
Yep.
Because he doesn't want to mess with it. And
hey, B, I see you talking about hot knives. I would like to have a conversation with you if you seem to know something about those. So we should definitely communicate.
Should he email you or Facebook you or Instagram you?
Oh, I don't care how he gets me. Just get me.
Get me. If he can't figure out how to get you, then he shouldn't be talking to you, I guess.
Yeah, we probably. Yeah.
Okay, if you could no longer sew, John, what would you do? People were asking me very insightful questions today.
I'd mow lawns. I love mowing grass so much that I go and mow my neighbor's lawns. I mow the lot across the street. I mow all the way up and down the highway out here. Nobody pays me for it. I just go do it. I mow in the dark. I have light bars on my lawn mowers. I like mowing grass. The real answer, what I would do, I don't know what I would do. But I like mowing grass. I mean, I've always thought that when guys are like, I need money, I'm like, you have a lawnmower. If you don't, go take the one your neighbor's not using and just clean it before you bring it back, and he'll never know what was gone, and go make some money with it.
Heck, he might just let you use it.
Yep. Yep.
What do you know what it is about mowing lawns that you like? Is it like seeing the tidiness?
So I do love that. I love the progression. If you watch some of my compound videos, anytime you see a lawnmower, you will notice that I walk out and I'm like, we're going to turn this into this. And you just see it drastically, the before and after, and then you'll see the drone. I like the smell of it. I like that I can just get out there and do this, and I see instant gratification. As I look to the side, I see where I was versus where I'm going. And I can just listen to podcasts. When I'm way behind on Spearco podcasts, I know that I have days worth of podcasts that I can get on and mow and not have any breaks in the middle of that thing. It'll just go right from one to the next, and I can catch up on that. And it's really kind of relaxing. It's like when I sew, when everybody leaves, or if I hate having to do something on the weekend or whatever, where I have to meet somebody at a certain time, because I can't really get started on anything real. And I'm just kind of in limbo. So a lot of times if I have an hour or 30 minutes, I'll sit down on a sewing machine. Or if it's 8 o'clock and I know I have to do a live at 9, I want to be productive. So I'll just sit on the sewing machine and just rip through production sewing, and I'll just have content on, right? And I get on people, I'm like, you're playing video games, you're watching a movie. But I guess that is kind of like my watching a movie. I consume content while I'm also being productive. And I've done this a million times. It doesn't take any thought. And then when the ladies come in the morning, there's 12 batches of work that are literally 90% of the way done. And they just put them together, which is what happened this morning. There was a lot of work came immediately off the machines because I just did the thoughtless part. It was thoughtless for me, thoughtless part of it. And I still consume content, which we later build content of our own off of, just, current events and stuff. I've hit up some, there's a lot of content dudes that I watch, and I'm like, hey, you might not know this, but you're like a week behind on this shit. You want me to just feed you content so that you can be more up to date on these things? Because you'll see a lot of the big channels come up with some topic. It's almost like they all watch each other. But what's really happening is they watch other small channels, and that's where the people feeding them got that from. But you'll see the major channels all come out with the same shit within a day or two. But really, that stuff happened over a week ago, a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I've been learning spinning in my spare time, but it's the same way. I can be doing something with my hands that's mostly mindless, and when I'm shot, I still feel like I want to be productive. So for me, it's an emotional thing of not wanting to give up yet for the day, and I'm spinning all this wool. And it's the thing I like about it is that I am doing something physically, which is how I process information, and then I can also be doing other things at the same time from an auditory standpoint. So yep, I don't know. Yep. Now I got to figure out what to do with all this yarn.
You need a picture of your wool spinner spinning wool.
Yes, I have one.
Not on a piano.
Oh, is there a picture of me on a piano?
No, there's a picture of the lady teaching wool spinning on a piano.
Oh, no, she's weaving.
Well,
that's
we
a
need
loom.
We need a picture of her. She's on a piano though, right?
Oh, I thought she was on a loom.
Maybe I'm thinking of something different. Austin, what's up, buddy? Austin says if you weren't sewing, you should probably host multiple podcasts ranging from business advice, homesteading, military topics, and history. Just an idea. That's funny because he's there every day when we do that. That's the other thing that we do.
Yeah, she's on a loom, but I can see why that looks.
Got it.
Yeah.
I would be a world famous rapper is what I would do if I wasn't sewing.
Well, we got to get your rap video up and running.
A lot of people don't know that I am a rapper.
I know. Didn't you record some stuff?
We've recorded some stuff.
Are you gonna ever put it out?
We're not gonna tell people it's out.
It's just gonna come out.
It's just out there. They won't even know that it's me.
Okay. Well, that's part of the fun. Okay. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I enjoy picking 200 feet of okra. Yeah, that's actually kind of nice too.
That's cool. I've got okra right now that are like this long. And when they get that big, they all point straight up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, this is too late. I'll just leave them. And then they die and they go through the winter and then they drop and reseed because they're in raised beds. Yeah. I have okra out there growing right now that I left from last year that's just reseeded itself. Same with carrots.
Cool. Well, I don't have any other questions in, John. Let's do once around the horn and call it a day.
Right on. Special operations equipment, SOE tactical gear on all platforms. I've got over 4,000 videos on YouTube. We are currently banned, so we can't upload this week. We do have the video that we were banned over is on Rumble. So if you want to check it out and see what our podcast is behind a paywall. It comes out free, but it's 90 days behind when it comes out free. So if you want to see what we're all about and what those podcasts look like, and they're 2 to 3 hours, you can see it up on Rumble. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. And if you see somebody comment on most of those platforms, it's usually me commenting. Sometimes Austin will be on there if somebody's being a butthole, and Austin will be commenting. But if it's a real answer, that's generally me commenting. So I'm easy to get a hold of. SOE Tactical Gear is the website. We do a different shirt every single week. This one says the Second Amendment, and then it has the Second Amendment. That one says American as fuck. And then we've got a bunch of different shirts. We do a different one every week. We don't ever rerun the same shirt. We do 120 pieces. They typically come out Monday, and they typically sell out.
That's pretty cool. Right. I'm Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast. We just had 1 million downloads, so we're celebrating that right now. I'm super stoked about it. When I started, I didn't think it was going to happen, but here we are. So now I'm going to try to have my time at least to the next million. We gotta accelerate this. But you can check that out on any podcast catcher, Living Free in Tennessee. And if you want to come out, build your community, learn scything, learn something you've never thought about before, and be challenged, come to Self-Reliance Festival, October 14th and 15th in Camden, Tennessee. You can meet John Willis in person at his compound, because that's where it is, in Camden, Tennessee, and have these conversations IRL, because in real life is way better than over the internet. So I would love to see you there, guys. selfreliancefestival.com.
Also, real quick, we have to get you to 1 million downloads on YouTube, because that's when you start making money. Once you have the YouTube, unfortunately, everybody's like, we need to leave YouTube. And I agree with you 100%, but people typically are lazy. And when somebody gets deplatformed from YouTube, they don't follow them somewhere else. At least the masses don't. So the podcast thing, the way she can make money and be able to do the podcast on a bigger scale is through sponsors. So if you are a sponsor and you like the things Nicole says, help her out with some financial monetization or a product or a good affiliate link or a click through. And I'm sure if it aligns with her, she'll be happy to talk about your product once, twice, 3 times a week for some revenue, right? Because that's why we all use YouTube. And that's why we're all stuck on YouTube, because nothing else monetizes. So help her out with that. And maybe we can get her off of YouTube some, but also get her to where she's actually making some money on those. She puts a ton of time. I know what it takes to do those. And we bleed money building content. So help out if you can, where you can.
Thanks, John. See you guys next week.
See you guys.